What is going on, everybody? John Impemba here with Howard Bender. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS show. It is week 9 of the NFL season here, Howard, and it's a week. All right, we got some bye weeks, we got some teams on buys. We got a Germany game here featuring two of the best offenses in football in the Chiefs and the Dolphins, which means they're not on the main slate here this week. I've done a QB coach. You've done the watch list. We're doing the DFS show here. And this has probably been one of the biggest coolers, I want to say, when it comes to what feels like going to be a cooler for a DFS slate, because we've had so much success over these last few weeks here. Personal success, site-wide success, family success. Looking at this slate, I'm taking a step back. I've lowered my exposures. I'm not playing in as many contests as I've been because the number of quarterbacks that are out, the teams that are on buys, the matchups that we have, like there's a few spots that to me are really jumping out. And the ones that are, if you go look at our rostership percentages, there's a reason why those guys are like 30, 40% in tournaments, because everybody's just looking at this slate and is like throwing up. They're just, it's so bad. It's like, we're playing the Saints. Yeah. So you and everybody else, like figure out, like what else are we doing here? Howard?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a problem. I would say it's definitely an ugly situation. It's definitely an ugly slate. But you know what? I mean, listen, I think, when you take a slate like you have this week and the main slate, because obviously, again, if you look at the schedule here, the Miami, Kansas City game, the Buffalo, Cincinnati game, those two bookends right there, not having the Chargers. I think this is actually, it's beneficial because the lineup optimizers that are out there, they're going to spit out certain things, certain algorithms and stuff like that. But they're not looking, in my opinion, they're not looking in the deep dives. They're not looking in the corners where, people like you and me gotta take a look at. So I do feel like, you're at an advantage when you're with somebody who isn't just like, oh yeah, here you go. Here are our top plays for the week, and here's our lineup optimizer. Go ahead, right? Like, I mean, that's what a lot of places are doing. We actually take the time and the energy through the coaching articles, through the playbook and the watch list and everything that we put together. We build that, so that I do think that we have a distinct advantage. I haven't even looked at the ownership yet, and I should probably take a look at that as we're having this conversation. But man, I'll tell you what, man, I'm ready to dive in, because while this might be an ugly slate, you can still get a good solid win out of that.
That's true. There's still always money to be made, as we say, Howard. So let's break it down. Let's get into it. We got the DraftKings main slate here. We're going to be looking at, per usual, going positional by position here at the quarterback spot. Again, I do the quarterback coach here. Usually I break it down in tiers: top price plays, mid price plays, your value plays. This week, though, the quarterback position, again, to me, I felt a little uneasy about it, honestly. Top price guys here on the slate. You have Lamar Jackson at home against Seattle. The world was on Lamar Jackson last week. He was over 20% rostered in GPP tournaments, 11 fantasy points against Arizona. Gus Bus just went, scored 3 touchdowns, really let a lot of people down. Jalen Hurts, who continues to be tremendous, but he's up against Dallas. He's at home. He's $8,000. There's certainly some worry potentially about his leg and the mobility, and against that Dallas pass rush, what's that going to look like when it comes to this spot? Kirk Cousins is now on IR. Dak Prescott gets Philly. Like, there's a lot of questions for me for like this top tier group. So when I did the quarterback coach, I included the Hurts Prescott matchup, both quarterbacks, because that's just like the sexiest game on the board in terms of talent, upside. But there really wasn't I didn't really find myself looking to play Lamar Jackson here, because that pass offense hasn't really come through. And I like what Seattle continues to do, building up their defense, getting Leonard Williams. Jamal Adams is healthy. Witherspoon looks like a stud cornerback there. So I worry a bit about Lamar here. What's your overall take on these top quarterbacks when it comes to pricing?
Well, I mean, listen, I think, there are a lot of people. You look at the over under the game total for Dallas against Philadelphia, and I think a lot of people are going to be on those two quarterbacks. Are they, I like Hurts more than I like Dak Prescott because I think the pass rush for Philadelphia is significantly better. And, while yes, they've given up a significant amount of passing yards per game, it's because they dominate so much and they force teams to just keep airing the ball out enough. But you're getting a healthy secondary here for Philadelphia. So, I mean, I think that Dallas's defense, you losing Van Der Esch, losing Trayvon Diggs, it's definitely done something to it. They've got a great pass rush. They do, right? Micah Parsons is an absolute stud, but you're also dealing with the best offensive line in football, right? In the Eagles. So I do think that Hurts gets the protection that he needs. I'm not really all that worried about the Dallas pass rush. So yeah, I do think that that Hurts is the guy. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore is a difficult situation because you run on Arizona. We know you can run on Arizona, and they did that. One of the things that we noticed, and we talked about this when we were trying to figure out why the hell Lamar Jackson was so chalky.
Yeah.
Couple of weeks ago when they were playing Detroit. And, one of the things that we eyeballed there, or what, when breaking it down was Detroit uses a lot of man coverage, right?
Yeah.
They use a lot of zone coverage and they don't blitz heavily. And that's a big deal. If you're going to give Lamar Jackson the time to sit back there, and you have zone coverage instead of man coverage, you're going to open things up a lot more for the Baltimore Ravens passing attack. So while we looked at Arizona as like, oh yeah, their pass defense blows, they blitzed more than Detroit, not a heavy blitz team, but they also sat a lot more in press man coverage, jacking up those receivers at the line. Look at Seattle. Yeah, you get Leonard Williams. Yeah, Witherspoon looks really good. Yeah, Jamal Adams is healthy. But you're also talking about, a team that doesn't blitz and a team that plays nothing but cover 2 and cover 3 zone. And I think that's a big deal. So if you're not going to blitz the quarterback, and when you grab a guy like Leonard Williams, what you're hoping to do is you're hoping to fortify that front 7 and be able to use like the extra defensive back if you can. So, I look at this matchup and I think that, obviously a lot of people are going to be off Lamar, even though he's like the second highest owned quarterback on our projection here. That's something to pay attention to. But you look at what Seattle does on the defensive side of things, and no blitzing and only zone coverage, that's gonna cause some problems for them. So I actually do like Lamar Jackson this week. Maybe you want to put him into a GPP lineup as opposed to utilizing him in a cash game lineup. And, maybe we'll just, fall back on Jalen Hurts as the default cash game guy. But I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with this top tier. It's like, it's Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, and I'm okay with that. But I'm not really as interested in Dak Prescott or Geno Smith. Like, I'm actually thinking about going back to CJ Stroud. I know it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm going back to him. It's a home game for Houston. Tampa Bay, they've got good corners, but it funnels everything to the middle of the field. So, they struggle against the slot coverage. They struggle against they have their moments of struggle against the tight end. So, I think that CJ Stroud might be an intriguing guy to go back to here. And then beyond that, I mean, I think the next best option is going to be Derek Carr, and I'm sure the world's on him.
Yeah, so I agree with you on the Stroud. I wrote him up. I kind of said, listen, they came out of the bye, and I expected them to be better prepared. But we probably should have taken more into an account that Carolina was also coming off of a bye, and they were at home. And while we talk about the personnel that Carolina is missing, scheme and defensive system also plays a big part in a team's success at times as well. The fact that they had the entire extra week to prepare for not having those guys that were going to be in their lineup, they were just able. I mean, Stroud threw for 140 yards. We did not see that coming here in that matchup. So willing to kind of run it back again, like you said, Houston at home. I'm okay with that one. Sam Howell still throwing the ball 500 times a game. Going up against New England, I don't think New England's offense is any great shakes here. And if they're committed to just throwing with Howell just by pure volume, then fantasy production could certainly just continue to flow in his direction like it's kind of been. Derek Carr, as you mentioned, though, I included Derek Carr in the top section of the quarterback coach this week, even though he is a value play in terms of pricing, because one, the matchup home against Chicago, and two, just everybody's going to be on him. The chalk is just there. So felt like if I didn't put him in the top spot of the QB coach, I'd be doing a little bit of a disservice to that, because of one, I think he could be one of the top scoring quarterbacks of the slate. 3 straight games over 300 yards passing. You can stack him pretty easily because of his price tag. His wide receivers are all very affordable. Alvin Kamara is a super chalk running back this week, but mostly because of his PPR impact. So that helps Derek Carr there as well. So for sure, $5,700 Carr, 62 Stroud is in play. Howell, I think, is there just for the volume standpoint there at $5,800. We are getting some breaking news while we're live here, Howard.
Nice.
Deshaun Watson will start for the Cleveland Browns this week at home against the Arizona Cardinals.
If that's not the ultimate fish hook right there. Come on, man.
So, again, I don't really care to trust Deshaun Watson as far as I could throw him. I did like Amari
With
Cooper.
your bad knee, John, you shouldn't be throwing anybody.
I did like Amari Cooper, but now I don't know. I mean, Deshaun Watson literally couldn't throw the football as last time he started. I have to assume he's passing some more strength and conditioning tests on that shoulder to make it seem like he's good enough to play here against Arizona. But he's $5,400 there. You got Baker against Houston. Again, I'm kind of okay going there if you want to at Baker, because he has Mike Evans, he has Chris Godwin. Certainly can throw the football at times against Houston more than they were earlier in the season. I don't know. I've had a lot of questions on Gardner Minshew. I've had questions on Aiden O'Connell in our Discord. Taylor Heineke at home against Minnesota at 5K. This is where the struggle city is here, Howard. Like, what are we doing for value? Do you have interest in any of these very cheap, now backup quarterbacks that are starting? Aiden O'Connell is $4,500 at home against the Giants. New offensive coordinator, new head coach, new system. Devontae Adams could get 45 targets in this game, right? Like, where are you on this value here?
It's a pretty ugly situation there. Value QBs. Yeah, I mean, I think Minshew is in a good spot. I think you can go with a little, I mean, if you really wanted to give a whirl here with Taylor Heineke, what about your boy Mac Jones? Like, let's talk about that for a second, because, everybody's in on, or maybe it's just that I'm dealing with Coop so much that it's like, Pop Douglas.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're ruling out Mac Jones then.
I'm not ruling out Mac Jones, because the team, my biggest worry about New England going into this game was the defensive line for Washington. And then they traded away Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So their two biggest pass rushers are now no longer going to be a concern for the Patriots offensive line. They still have some good interior defensive linemen there. Their defensive tackles are pretty strong, but their two best sack pass rushers are now not on the team anymore. Patriots' biggest weakness is the offensive line. The cornerbacks for Washington are terrible. But again, who's catching the football? Kendrick Bourne has been the best wide receiver on New England this season. He just tore his ACL. Pop Douglas, as nice as he is, isn't really like a playmaker. He's a guy that kind of moves the sticks a little bit. He's Jacoby Myers, light in New England, and Jacoby Myers like never caught a touchdown pass for the Patriots for like his first 3 years of his season. Devontae Parker has been in concussion protocol. So the starting wide receivers for New England this week could be Pop Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Jalen Reagor, right? Like,
that's ugly.
I don't know if Mac Jones is going to be able to do much in that scenario with those guys there. It's great to see him throw 4 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks, but he only managed 13 fantasy points against Miami. Are we going to get a ceiling game out of him against like he did against Buffalo? I mean, they're home at least, so I don't know. I am very skeptical. I am not a bullish Patriots fan at the moment for obvious reasons. So it's probably a no for me. I don't mind the Pop Douglas as a wide receiver value here, but I'm not going to be going too much here. Additional breaking news, Howard. Drake London officially ruled out for Sunday's game here. So speaking on Taylor Heineke, now without his top pass catching option, maybe they decide to use Kyle Pitts this week, Otherwise, we're looking at what, like Kadarrell Hodge and Mac Hollins. Is that who the wide receivers are in Atlanta this week?
Yeah, I'm not using them. I'm not using them at all. Sorry, not gonna happen. Bye-bye.
What do you think about Bryce Young? Indy obviously been a favorable target. Bryce Young not exactly lighting up the world, but home, good matchup. Adam Thielen exists still. Jonathan Mingo actually had a decent target share last week. $5,100. Would you give the rookie Q a look this week?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
Let's move on.
Let's move on to a better position. I agree with you. Running back, Alvin Kamara is only $8,100. This is the other cool thing about this slate. We don't have to worry about like a 10-5 Christian McCaffrey or, those super expensive plays here. They're not on the slate. So Kamara at $8,100 being your top priced running back. Again, mega chalk, no shock. Great spot to have him in there. But I found myself, again, building a lot of lineups with Jonathan Taylor for a couple of reasons. One, love the matchup against Carolina. Obviously, one of the worst defensive teams against the run in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor had these numbers in the first half of that game against New Orleans, and then he got 1 carry in the second half. And after he got 1 carry in the second half, and the Colts went on to lose that game, head coach heard it. He heard a lot of criticism about the lack of usage for Jonathan Taylor in the second half of that game. Believe it or not, team reporters weren't buying Zach Moss had a big run, so he wanted to ride the hot hand. They're like, are you out of your mind? Jonathan Taylor had 100 yards in the first half of that game. Why are we not using him? I think Jonathan Taylor takes over the full workload this week. I think Taylor is the horseback in this matchup against Carolina. $6,400 is far too cheap for him, given the production we've gotten the last couple of weeks, just in general. I think he's going to challenge to be one of the top scoring backs overall here.
You know what? I do think he can be. I'm just not ready to rule out Zach Moss. And there's a reason. Like, it doesn't matter what the public is screaming and yelling, or even the beat writers. The beat writers are going to fall in line, because that's what beat writers do. Beat writers are so scared to lose their access to the locker room that if the coach says shut the fuck up, they're going to shut the fuck up, right? I mean, that's just, you tilt your head, you nod, but I've spoken to so many beat writers, and you're talking about a group of people who, when Kyle Shanahan said, don't write about JaMychal Hasty because I want to deploy him as a secret weapon, every Bay Area beat writer was like, okay, no problem.
Sure.
So I'm not ready. I mean, especially when you see the workload that Zach Moss is getting. And again, it's they want to get the win. They don't want to, they're not about the, it's
they
not
didn't
about
win.
Jonathan Taylor.
I think that's the other part, is that Taylor had such success and then they didn't win that game, and they didn't use him at all in the second half. Again, he faced, and he was defensive on it too. Like, they kept on kind of grilling him that post-game press conference, and he looked a little rattled. I'm not going to lie to you there, Howard. So
was he rattled, or was he like, listen, you know what? You guys are going to sit there. You're going to criticize, no matter if I lose the game, you're going to criticize anything. If I use Jonathan Taylor in the second half and we still lost that game, guess what? You guys would be like, well, why wouldn't you get Zach Moss in there? He's got fresh legs.
Sure. His response was basically, well, Zach Moss had a big run to open the second, so he rode the hot hand. And they were like, Jonathan Taylor had 94 yards rushing in the first half. Like, wasn't he your hot hand? So they, again, I still like the price in general. We've seen the explosiveness side of him. He's being involved in the passing game, and Carolina being one of the worst run defenses in football. I found myself playing a lot of Kamara. I found myself playing a lot of Jonathan Taylor. But, with the quarterback change in the matchup here and the fact that I guess Leonard Williams being traded as well, a lot of ownership is looking at Josh Jacobs here this week. I haven't really been on the Josh Jacobs train because efficiency has not been his friend. One game over 4 yards per carry this season, but with Aiden O'Connell as the quarterback, he had I think that was his 8 catch game if I remember correctly there. So PPR value for Josh Jacobs, rookie quarterback. A lot of people thinking Jacobs is in a great spot this week.
Yeah, and listen, we talked about this all the time when a team fires their head coach. The team responds, into if they like the coach, then they're like, oh, well, we're gonna play and we're gonna show you guys, we'll win one for the coach. And if they hate the coach, then they're gonna be like, see, look, we play even better without him. So,
right.
In the betting circles, I'm, Raiders -1.5, no doubt about it. Will they ride Josh Jacobs? They should. They definitely should. He had his most efficient game, averaging 4.1 yards per carry last week for the Raiders. So, I think people are definitely going to pay attention to him. I think more people in that game are going to lean towards Saquon Barkley, even though he's got a questionable tag there. I think that's probably, something that they're going to kind of.
Because he had 36 carries against your Jets.
Yes, he did.
That's a wild volume there for Saquon Barkley. A lot of, high upside play. Are they going to do enough to score? We'll see, but the volume certainly is there. One of the few weeks I'm not really in on Kenneth Walker. We actually saw Zach Charbonnet out-snap Walker in that last game, and Coop did the snap count report, kind of tracked it. Zach Charbonnet got all of the 2-minute drill work. Not a single snap there for Kenneth Walker. First time this season, Charbonnet sort of taken over that role fully. So something to pay attention to there. You got the Pollard and Swift matchup here. I'm not really keying in on either of those two. And then again, it kind of drops off. So, a guy that hasn't been efficient at all this season, but in another great spot is Rachaad White. Talk about being able to run on Houston. Again, they're not really giving much other running backs the carries here. Now they've been trailing in these games, so his carry count doesn't look great. His volume but 7 catches, 6 catches, last couple of games here is where he's making his hay. Chase Edmonds returned, didn't really do much to cutting into the Rachaad White role. $5,600. I might be willing to give him a look here this week.
Yeah, I think he's in a good spot. The problem, like I look at Rachaad White as being more of like, maybe he's more of like a cash game guy because there's no ceiling for this guy. Right. There's 60 yards and a touchdown. Is that what we're basically getting out of him?
The pass game work.
Right. The passing game helps boost his floor, which is what I like. So, yeah. But you're not getting 100-yard game effort out of Rachaad White, rushing or receiving combined, maybe, sure. But DK doesn't give you those bonus points for the combined action.
Right. 100% agree with you. So, obviously if he finds the end zone, raises the floor, but a pretty good floor because of his total combined yardage here. Totally in. Are you chasing Gus Edwards, $5,900?
Am I chasing Gus Edwards no?
Okay. Like I said, I'm kind of now like, I don't know where to go. Dameon Pierce is doubtful. People are really looking at Devin Singletary. He's 4,300. Vita Vea is going to play, though, for Tampa Bay this week. And obviously, that's their huge run stuffer. Singletary does have some pass game involvement. We saw that, obviously, with Buffalo. He's going to be a value starting back. I think just for some salary savings, you'll see some people playing Singletary in cash games maybe this week.
Yeah, I thought about writing him up for my article in the New York Post about, just going in and, because of the bye weeks and so many tandem backfields, can you get away with Devin Singletary as a potential option? I've got him in a couple of season-long places. If Dameon Pierce is ruled out completely, then I would consider Singletary a little bit more. But again, what kind of a ceiling are we really looking at for him?
Yeah, I agree. Listen, they haven't been able to run the football at all on anybody. I understand people are like, well, you had a 4.8 yard per carry game. You had a 4.6 yard per carry game. Coop and I talk about this all the time. Guys that get the spell backs, basically, like the lead back is Dameon Pierce. He faces all the tough sets. And then in these third and long situations or these, spots where Devin Singletary is on the field, the opposing team isn't trying to stop the run generally. So they do these draw plays. They have these nickel defenses out there. And Devin Singletary gets to run against these softer coverages and is able to pick up bigger chunk yardage, where Dameon Pierce is going up against front sevens that are ready to stop the run on those early downs or those short yardage downs. So, sometimes the yards per carry numbers can be misleading because you just have to take into account the actual role that these running backs find themselves in. So Singletary's down there at $4,300. Miles Sanders did not saw like one snap last week. Chuba Hubbard apparently took over the job. Is that because we think Sanders isn't fully healthy? He doesn't have a designation for an injury. So do you play Chuba Hubbard this week, Howard? Like, does that appeal to you at all?
I so badly just want to stay away from this backfield. Like, yeah. I can't, because that they're going to turn around and they're going to give Miles Sanders 12 carries. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be active in the passing game. And is Hubbard going to get enough? Like they're going to, I could see them kind of gravitating more towards a 50-50 split. Sanders now, should be at full health. I just kind of want to stay away from what we've got going on there.
I agree. The last name I'll shout out here is Kareem Hunt. If Jerome Ford is out, again, he's been limited all week. He didn't play one snap, but he barely played for a lot of that game against Seattle last week. But Kareem Hunt, again, found the end zone, 14 for 55, double-digit carries now 3 straight weeks, 4 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. I might find myself playing some Kareem Hunt just in general. Feels pretty clear that he's at least in the mix at the running back position. They're giving him some red zone looks. $5,500 for a Kareem Hunt in the mid-tier play. I don't mind getting to him in some tournaments this week.
Yeah, it's. I
mean, the snaps have been there. The touches have been there lately.
The snaps have been there. The touches have been there. He's got 9 red zone carries in each of the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Listen, I think you can use both. I like Jerome Ford as the lead back in that situation. He came back early in the from the ankle issue. And I know you're like, oh, he doesn't run efficiently. Yeah, I don't give a fuck if he runs efficiently or not. If the dude is going to break off like a big play, which we've seen him do time and time again, and you look at Arizona, who has given up at least one 20-yard run in each of their last 3 games. Right? So they're giving up big plays. Give me some Jerome Ford. But yes, I definitely want to look at Kareem Hunt as well, because I do think, the red zone touches. He's in my article as well that I wrote for the Post, because of these red zone touches that he's getting, because of the fact that it's going to remain a shared backfield. If anybody kind of dwindles off a little bit, it's Pierre Strong.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And it's kind of funny because it's not like Ford plays 50% of the snaps and Hunt plays 50% of the offensive snaps. It's Ford plays 47%, Hunt plays 38%. And, so they're closer, but neither of them are actually getting over 50% of the offensive snaps on the regular. So I kind of find that a little bit interesting. Any other running backs here for you, Howard?
No, I don't really think there's not really a pay down that's really doing it for me.
Only 10 games on the slate, so fewer teams available and not the good ones. Wide receiver position. AJ Brown, I had locked into 100% of my lineups last week. 8 of 8, 130 and 2 scores. Gonna get Dallas. Gonna get Stephon Gilmore, I guess, probably on the coverage here. Who's the cornerback that's going to be on AJ Brown in this matchup with Diggs out?
I don't think they're going to shadow. I really don't. Is Stephon? You tell me. You're the Stephon Gilmore, probably more knowledgeable than I am. I get he's a great cover guy, but are we shadowing anymore with him? And do you think he can keep up with AJ Brown? AJ Brown's not only fast, but he's physical as well.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think Gilmore might still be on him, because he does have the size to sort of play with Brown, but at this point, I agree with you. My biggest regret last week, I had him 100% of my DFS lineups. I certainly wasn't crying about that. But his receptions prop last week, Howard, for receiving yards is only 86.5. And I sat here after the game was over and I was like, why was I not alt betting his receiving yard lines like 100 plus yards, 110 plus yards, 120? You were getting plus odds on all of those receiving yards for a guy that just set the NFL record for consecutive games of over 125 yards receiving. I actually haven't checked. I'm going to see what they got his wide receiver yards at this week here. Receiving yards. AJ Brown receiving yards is set at, scroll down, 81.5. Why? He's gone for 131, 175, 127, 131, 137, 130. They have him for 81.5 here this week, Howard. Like, what am I missing? What am I missing with AJ Brown here when it comes to that number? Is it just that they don't think he can continue to do that production?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's kind of where you're at right now with that. I mean, you got to look at, let me go to DVOA numbers and just kind of see where Dallas is against the number one.
You're getting plus 330 on 120 yards.
Third, giving up 59.8 yards per game to them. So maybe AJ Brown is not the guy that you want to lock in this week.
Well, we did see Cooper Kupp get shut down last week. Puka Nacua had a little bit of a better day going up against Dallas.
Yeah, but you also had Matthew Stafford with a,
No, I agree. I'm just wondering if like what some of those numbers are sort of playing into. Flip side of that matchup is CeeDee Lamb here. CeeDee Lamb went for 12 for 158 and 2 scores. He's drawing the opposite side of that one. We've talked about Philly just giving up boatloads of passing yards this season here. I know they've improved their secondary. They continue to improve their secondary. Again, Byard, it's as a safety. They have Slade. They have Bradbury and all that stuff here. Those are your top 2 price wide receivers. Are you playing either of them here,
Howard? Brown or Lamb? Yeah. I mean, I've got Brown in a lineup, kind of listed there. I mean, I can pivot off to Lamb, who's $400 cheaper. Again, my concern, obviously, is how Dak Prescott can handle the pass rush. How the Cowboys can handle, some of their offensive line issues. But I mean, from just strictly a numbers standpoint, like, why wouldn't you use either one of those guys? I mean, if you're not going to use AJ Brown, right? Like, because you're afraid that, he's due for a letdown game and Stephon Gilmore, maybe he's going to shadow him or something like that. Like, are you going to pivot? I'm not pivoting to Cooper Kupp at all. Like, I'm not interested in the Rams wide receivers right now with the way Matthew Stafford's thumb is. So you're either using, if you're going to use a top wide receiver, you're either using Brown or Lamb, or you're pivoting down to Devontae Adams, the ultimate squeaky wheel, and whether or not he gets the grease. But then you look, beyond that, Adam Thielen is $7,500.
I know. Listen, but 8 for 72 on 11 targets again. I mean, yes, he's not 5 or 6K anymore. He's $7,500. If he gets you 8 for 72 at $7,500, you kind of need him to find the end zone to pay off the $7,500 price tag. I don't think you're too happy with 15 fantasy points spending $7,500 for me, at least. Now, we've seen him have some bigger games lately, and he is the only one really scoring on this offense. Indy, definitely a team that you can attack through the air here. So, yeah, I don't mind going to Adam Thielen at 75. I think cash gain is probably a play for Thielen here. But we're talking upside. Mike Evans has some upside in tournaments that I like at $7,300 going up against Houston. You mentioned Devonta Smith. If they're shutting down the number 1 wide receiver, maybe Devonta Smith, who finally scored last week, 7 for 99 against Washington, there broke through. If you think this game's going to be the highest scoring game on the slate, because that's what Vegas is telling you, somebody has to score these touchdowns. So, you kind of just have to take some darts on where you're going to go. The wide receivers for Philly are more expensive than the wide receivers for Dallas outside of Lamb. You want to go down to Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup. They're both under 5K. If you think those are the guys that are going to get some looks. A lot of rostership comes in on New Orleans. Chris Olave is $6,300 here going up against Chicago.
Before you get ahead of yourself here, why don't you give your favorite? Like, I mean, are you fading the top end because of this? Like, we can go through position by position, kind of, give some thoughts about each guy, but like, who are you looking to play this week?
So I think I'm playing lighter, as I mentioned. I'm only playing in a 15-3 max.
I'm not asking you what contest you're playing. I'm asking you which players you're using.
So I'm telling you the exposure. So I'm playing just 3 lineups this week for GPP tournament, but it's a 3 max, so it's not the Millie Maker with the 150,000 players a minute. I am scattering my exposure to the Philly, Dallas, Saints receiving group with some Mike Evans pivoted in there as well for some potential upside to that game there. So I have Brown, I have Lamb, I have Evans, I have some Olave, I have Michael Thomas, I got one Rashid Shaheed, and I have a Brandon Cooks. That's pretty much where I'm at wide receiver. I had some Amari Cooper. I'll maybe reconsider that as well in the 3 lineups with the Deshaun Watson news, but like, not getting to Thielen, not getting to Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, not playing Godwin, Metcalf, Pittman, not going to play Myers. Like, I'm just not really playing a lot of this because I'm not playing as many lineups as I usually do, Howard. So kind of consolidating my player pools here. I'm getting exposure to the top scoring game. And I'm getting exposure to the chalk. And then I'm taking a shot at some guys that run downfield and have touchdown potential, like a Mike Evans at $7,300, where I can kind of pivot off of Lamb, or I can move up from Olave in those lineups.
Okay. Cool.
What about you? How are you feeling about it?
How am I feeling about it? I mean, listen, I don't play a lot of lineups either. I play, I like to play one cash lineup where I build a 0 fat lineup, and then I build 3 GPP lineups every week. Like, that's it. I'm not like a 10 or a 12 lineup guy, because the problem is like when I sit there and I build like 10 or 12 lineups, right? Like, all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm going to mix and match, and I got this guy here, and I got that guy there, and I got this over there. And all of a sudden you start missing more than you're hitting, right? Because you're like, oh shit, why didn't I pair this guy with that one or anything like that? Like, I know I'm either going to win or I'm going to lose, and that's it. Like, but like my cash game lineup is what keeps me in play. Like, my cash game lineup prevents me from losing money.
Sure.
Right. And so, trying to build around that and trying to figure out what I want to do. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to have probably even exposure to the wide receivers for Philly and for Dallas.
Yep.
Right. I'll have, AJ Brown in one and CeeDee Lamb in the other. The key for me is trying to figure out where the core that I'm building around. Like, who are going to be the guys that are going to be in each one of my lineups? Because that's really where the focus should be. Like, who is going to be, do I have a lock QB? Do I have a lock running back? Do I have somebody that I'm definitely going to use no matter what, and build around that? And that's kind of where I'm kind of looking at. I'm trying to figure out, like, where am I paying up this week? And it seems to be right now, it seems to be the running back position, right? Like, that kind of seems to be the area. And I kind of like paying up at QB.
Sure.
Like paying up at QB and running back this week, because there's so many like other dart throws that you can make when you're looking at wide receiver. And so since we're talking about the wide receiver position, yeah, I mean, let's kind of like look through and find where that value is, because I mean, obviously I think that there's significant value, if you just, I don't even love like the mid tier kind of guys. Like I like the Coopers and Olaves. I'm going to say, I mean, Olave, yeah, because he's going to see decent targets, but I'm not enamored with him. Like, I'm kind of like, all right, well, shit, let me look down even further here and start looking at like, and I'm kind of like locking into like the Shaheed and Cooks range with a lot of these guys. And that's, kind of, that's where I'm really looking to do things. I'm looking to find, all right, 2 super cheap ass plays that I've kind of uncovered as being, really just great spots. Believe it or not, actually 3. Elijah Moore, Even with Watson or with PJ Walker, Elijah Moore at 3,900, right? He kind of interests me because you look at the coverage numbers for Arizona, and while yes, you run on Arizona, you can run on Arizona. If Deshaun Watson's there, he's going to want to sling the rock too. Not heavily, but he's going to want to throw the ball too. So Elijah Moore is in a good spot. I mean, at least on paper. Jonathan Mingo as the pivot off of Adam Thielen. Mingo's playing like 95 to 98% of the snaps right now in Carolina. You're starting to see more targets go his way. They're kind of pulling back from DJ Chark, who's still playing a significant number of snaps, but Mingo seems to be the guy who is, kind of stepping up a little bit more. And then if you want to go really dirty and really disgusting, that is, where is Tampa Bay's biggest coverage shortage? It's against the slot receiver. No. I'm not looking. I said, where is Tampa Bay weakest?
Oh, I don't know. Where are they weakest?
They're weakest against the slot. You got Carlton Davis on one side. You got Jamel Dean on the other. Slapping a little $3,100 Noah Brown in there.
Yeah, Robert Woods still out, right? So
Robert Woods is still out.
Yep. I mean, listen, he obviously had some big plays there. 34 yards was his long against New Orleans. He had 37 total yards. 31 yards was his long against Carolina. He had 57 total yards. But I don't mind it. That's definitely going against where the roster ship's looking like. Under 4K, top rostered play, believe it or not, is Wan'Dale Robinson right now. 2 targets, 1 target, but look who's been the quarterback for the Giants the last couple of weeks. If Daniel Jones is going to play, people are kind of leaning in on Wan'Dale as a bounce back spot here this week at $3,500. Highest rostered wide receiver we have projected right now is Mario Douglas. You mentioned Elijah Moore.
Douglas.
Probably a pivot play, obviously, is Elijah Moore over Mario Douglas because, again, the volume's been great, but are we really loving 5 for 25 or 4 for 54? I'm not 2 for. I'm not for me. I guess if you need to save the salary, that's where you want to go. Coop pointed out that Van Jefferson ran the most routes for Atlanta after the Drake London injury. Could see Van Jefferson start for the Falcons this week. $3,600 now that Drake London is officially ruled out here. 3 catches, 5 targets, 24 yards. I mean, he's never really been anything, but if he gets an opportunity to play and he's going to start, maybe you got to give him a look with Taylor Heineke throwing the football here. I will say the other thing about that game was that obviously they were trailing against Tennessee. With the rookie quarterback in Minnesota, is Atlanta going to be having to play from behind in this game? Are they going to need to throw as much in this game? Something to, maybe potentially look at. But he's going to certainly, I think, have some eyes. Brandon Cooks agreed with you. The Thomas Shaheed thing is interesting because Shaheed, last couple of weeks here, good target share against Jacksonville and Houston. Only 3 targets against Indy, but he went 3 for 153 and a touchdown. So in tournaments, I agree. I think Rashid Shaheed makes a lot of sense. Cash games, I don't mind going up a little bit and playing Michael Thomas instead because, the target's going to be there. And he's getting a lot of love in rostership as well at his price tag.
Yeah, I like Shaheed more than I like Thomas. Thomas is really, he's turned into like that possession receiver, they'll hit him on the sideline routes. But Shaheed's got that big playability. I used Shaheed in a bunch of spots last week, and it was huge. It really was. That's ideal for GPP tournaments because of all that big playability.
Yeah, my worry about him is that he only played 18 total snaps. 27% of the snaps he was on the field for. He just happened to hit all of those. Now, when they were playing from behind against Houston, playing from behind against Jacksonville, he played over 70% of the offensive stats in those games. So, if you think New Orleans is going to be in a competitive game, then Shaheed makes some sense. Otherwise, you definitely kind of need him to hit on those targets because they may not be in a spot where they're going, spread offense, 5 wide, 3 wide here, and getting him on the field, which is why I think Thomas has the safer floor. Everybody's kind of gravitating towards that spot, though. With Curtis Samuel being officially ruled out, do you give any love to the Washington receivers this week?
I don't know.
I actually haven't looked it up, but Coop said Crowder stepped into the same role right
Oh
away.
yeah.
There it is.
He threw the Crowder stuff at me also.
7 for 95 and a score. I mean, that's not. Yeah, you can't argue.
No, you can't argue against
that.
it. You definitely can't argue against it. The question is, I mean, it's a GPP play only.
Yeah,
like there's no way you use that in cash games. I just can't. I can't buy into to him.
I still couldn't believe Jamison Crowder was in the league, and never mind the fact that he's only 30 years old. I thought he was 40 at least. So again, wide receiver here. Check out the wide receiver coach from Colby Conway. He has been absolutely killing it this year. If you haven't already taken a peek at some of his top wide receiver plays, let's move on to tight end here. Again, a spot where I found myself kind of just keying in on David Njoku right away. The target share has been great. Return to practice in a limited fashion on Thursday here. Mark Andrews did score right away, and then we just saw Baltimore go away from their run. But he does get a good target share with Deshaun Watson. You liked Elijah Moore. I'm fine kind of running back to David Njoku at $3,800.
You know what? I'd rather go to Jake Ferguson at $4,000 for Dallas. It's a huge shortcoming for the Eagles. They give up a ton of points to the tight end, a ton of yards to the tight end. And if you want that slice of that, like if you're not going to use Lamb or Cooks, and you want exposure there, I think Ferguson's in a great spot for tight end work here. And then, I mean, he's $4,000, and then 4,100 is Kyle Pitts.
Yep. Yeah, Kyle Pitts is obviously definitely interesting because of the Drake London news here as well. Will Arthur Smith actually use him? We'll find out. But I like Taylor Heineke, as I've said from the beginning, as a quarterback, kind of help this passing offense. I think Kyle Pitts a decent spot. What do we make of Cole Kmet getting 10 targets last week? Does Taylor Bagent, after not targeting him and then targeting him nonstop?
Bagent, as in secret Bagent man.
I call him Badgent because he's
bad. Oh, I see what you did there, Johnny. That's
because he sucks, Howard. Okay. But he did throw to Cole Kmet 10 times here in this game. So
yeah.
Anything here?
Again, I don't love the matchup here against New Orleans at all. Like if I'm you want gross, you want disgusting.
Who's the Alontae Taylor matchup this week?
Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is the Alontae Taylor matchup this week. Dude's rolling out of the slot like 80% of the time now.
Well, I don't know if I want to touch that one here.
I don't know if you can touch that one, but if you're gonna touch something, I mean,
right. Taysom Hill, got to at least ask the question.
No.
Okay.
Screw him.
9 for 63 on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns.
9 for 63 on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, I know. Listen, again, when Jawan Johnson wasn't playing, then it made it nice because Taysom Hill was starting to get receptions.
Agreed.
But as soon as Jawan Johnson came back, then now you have to count on Taysom Hill getting that rushing touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't this feel like an Alvin Kamara 6 rushing touchdown game to you?
I don't know, because they love using Taysom Hill in the red zone.
I know, it's so bizarre.
They love it. They got their new formation. You've seen it. It's been tweeted 1,000 times. They put a 400-pound defensive lineman next to Taysom Hill and then have that guy be the lead blocker for him in the red zone. I mean, it's like a ridiculous thing I've seen, but it works. Logan Thomas is coming off a good game, but generally difficult to trust guys, tight ends against New England with Kyle Duggar there. Do the Patriots tight ends get more looks now that Kendrick Bourne's out? I mean, Hunter Henry started off the season really strong, faded off a little bit. Last couple of weeks, Pharaoh Brown's, I think, in concussion protocol. That guy, his 5 targets might not be there this week here. So where's Pharaoh Brown? I mean, geez, probably Min Price. Yeah, Min Price still did return to practice. I don't know. I'm just trying to spitball here. I mean,
You sound so depressed.
They're not using Gesicki anymore after the first couple of weeks they did. Maybe a Hunter Henry dart throw. Washington hasn't been good against tight ends. There's no Kendrick Bourne. There may not be no Devontae Parker. Maybe Henry this week at 30. I wish, but why isn't he 3K? Why is he $3,600? Like I don't get it. Higbee's 32. I don't know. Any of this is any value tight end? Help me out here. You're the tight end whisperer. We're like, what are you doing here?
All right. Well, Cade Otton becomes a very intriguing option here at $3,000. You're not going to see a world of targets, but Houston has been struggling against the tight end, so that's definitely a possibility. Like I said, I mean, I don't really. There's not a lot of good stuff there at the tight end position. Like, Luke Musgrave is in a good spot because the Rams are just terrible against the tight end. But are we going to trust in Jordan Love? You clearly don't want to.
I don't. Oh, I mean, I don't know. The Rams aren't great, so I mean, maybe, but he's not at 100%. So I don't know. The tight end's pretty gross. Do you just like close your eyes and just play for Andrews or Hawkinson here? I don't know.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, if I'm going to pay up, where am I paying up and where am I paying down? That's, really what it comes down to there. And, listen, I do like a Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews pairing. Seattle is, they're 21st in the league in DVOA against the tight end position, but they haven't been giving up a ton of fantasy points to the tight end position. So I'm not really sure if that is, is that something that we're kind of, we're playing against, if they're not giving up a lot of fantasy points. I mean, I haven't looked back and seen exactly which tight ends they're going up against.
Right. I mean, Jamal Adams is there. We know he's a pretty good cover guy on tight ends, but it's a bleak position here. How, like I said, that's why I kind of just kept on going down to David Njoku, and just kind of playing that. So, I mean, Trey McBride. Do we know if Kyler's in or out yet? Has that been officially stated?
No, they haven't made that announcement yet either. As far as that,
I mean,
goes.
I know.
I'm assuming it's Clayton Tune.
Yeah, I know it's Cleveland, but if it is Clayton Tune, do you just throw to the tight end this whole game? I mean, Trey McBride coming off with a 10-catch, 95-yard game. I mean,
this is not a great matchup for Trey McBride. Cleveland's number one in DVOA against the tight end.
I know. I just don't know what to do. This slate is so bad. I am just.
You're either going to go up for Andrews,
okay,
or you're going to go hang out in your Jake Ferguson, David Njoku.
Okay.
Kind of range there. Kyle Pitts, 4,100, 4,000, or you can go to 3,900, 3,800, whatever Njoku is. That's the realm of where I'm probably living the most if I'm not paying up for Andrews.
Sure. Our highest projected tight end right now is TJ Hawkinson, for whatever that's worth. So,
right, which everybody just assumes that Jaron Hall is just going to keep dumping it off to him. But you know what? For the same token, you got to look at the fact that Atlanta is probably going to be keying in on Hawkinson, which maybe makes Brandon Powell the better play coming out of the slot.
Sure. All right, let's move to defenses here. Our Browns are no longer the value play. They're actually the highest priced defense on the board at $4,200. The Saints are right there at 41. Two defenses I've been playing almost exclusively, it seems like, this season around here. Definitely can play them both. No issues at all getting to them there. When I build my lineups this week, though, believe it or not, Howard, I threw the Patriots in there. Sam Howell gets sacked 50 times a game, and he turns the ball over. And the Patriots, the last couple of weeks, are getting after the quarterback. They are getting some turnover, some pressure here. So while it hasn't been a typical Patriots defensive season, they are home against Howell here. I'm willing to give them some look at $2,900.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're nice and cheap the way they are. I definitely dig on that. So yeah, I'm fine with the Patriots. I had a lineup with the Ravens in there also. I think Geno Smith has been turnover prone lately. He's thrown 5 picks in the last 3 games. And he's now traveling across country there. So I kind of look at that and say that, maybe the Ravens are, there's that bounce back, right? Where, we're crapping the bed for you last week. Now you want to load up on the Ravens at home here against the Seahawks.
Yeah, wild pricing for them, right? Like up and down to 2,500 against Detroit, up to 42, now down to 38, kind of leveling themselves out here. Do you buy any Raiders defensive hype here?
Yeah, actually, I do buy a little bit of it. I just, because the Giants are a little bit on the inept side, and Daniel Jones is making his way back. Sure,
The Raiders have one of the best defensive pass rushers in the NFL, Max Crosby. So
yeah, and so you kind of figure that he's going to be in that, in that backfield a ton. So, and again, here you go. Does the defense react to the coaching change and be like, yeah, here we go? Because Antonio Pierce, the linebackers coach, is now the head coach.
Right. So I agree with you. I think there's some spots there. And then, of course, if you want to take a shot on a defense against a backup quarterback, I think you can. Certainly can go ahead and take a look at some of those guys like the.
Everyone loves Atlanta.
Yeah, everybody's playing Atlanta this week. Same thing. I saw some people maybe tuning into Green Bay's defense this week. Howard, $2,800 at home against the Rams. If it's not Stafford there, maybe a spot for them. Even though they traded Rasul Douglas, which I thought was a little surprising. Just some value plays here at the position. If you're not in on some of the top price guys. Yeah.
All
right, let's build a lineup. Where did you go, Howard?
I kind of mixed and matched along the way here, just based on, stuff that we were talking about. Here you go. I mean, Lamar Jackson, because I know you hate him, because you don't trust him, because you're like the mindless herd that like says, oh, he sucked this past week, so I'm not going to use him this week.
Well, that's not why, but it's more, but that's okay.
Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
Jerome Ford, who I know you hate also.
Visceral reaction. All right, go
ahead. AJ Brown. Antonio Brown. Get Antonio Brown into your lineup.
That would be wild. All
right. Brandon Cooks.
Okay.
Nope. Take out Elijah Moore.
Oh, I thought we were going there. All right. Where are we going?
Mingo.
Oh, geez. Okay. Mingo. All right. Ferguson.
Mark Andrews.
All
right, you have Cooks in there.
You got Lamar. That's true. All right.
Shout one out to Coop and you for Pop Douglas.
Oh, geez. Puppy Douglas.
And the Patriots defense. Now, you could take out the Patriots defense and use the Ravens defense, but then you got to remove Douglas and use like Noah Brown.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I don't hate that lineup. That works for me. You have no Saints though, so
I don't. Because I'm kind of looking at it here as far as like for my cash game play, I'm probably going to have Alvin Kamara as my running back. Okay. The thing about it is like when you put something like this together, like what I was originally doing was here, take out Ford. All right, and so take out Ford, take out Cooks. Take out Andrews. Take out Douglas. Throw Kamara in there at running back. And so now you need to maneuver into some Ferguson at tight end. All right. And then I think over here you can go with you could go with Douglas, and then you've got 4,400 left over. Or you can go instead of there you go. Oh no, I don't want to use Devin Singletary on DK. I'll use him on FanDuel.
Why? He catches the football.
Yeah, but are they going to be throwing the football that much? And Tampa Bay is actually really good against pass catching running backs.
I mean, they could have to throw the football, but all right, $4,400. It's your flex.
4,400. I don't know. See which wide receivers are available. Get out of the flex and go to the wide receivers. It makes it a little bit more tolerable.
Cooks is still there.
All right, so you know what? Go Cooks and then take Ferguson out and go with you could go with Njoku. You don't have enough for Pitts, but you could go Njoku.
There you go.
Right? Or you could take out Njoku, take out Douglas, Go to Elijah Moore. Oh no, you're going to come up $100 short to get Kyle Pitts in there.
Yeah.
Either way, it's maneuverable. It's definitely maneuverable, but like I think the focal point here that, I mean, I guess it's where are we paying up and where are we paying down? And it looks like that we are going to be in that realm of like finding these bargain basement wide receivers.
Probably agree with you there. It's not great. I didn't like this. This slate this week. So
look at you with the double tight end. You know what? The double tight end, if you look at the playbook, look at the watch list, and you look at last week and the week before, the optimal lineups, the double tight end has been working very well.
I've been using it. Last week I had McBride and Andrews in almost 3 of my lineups. So McBride obviously smashed. Andrews had the early touchdown. I thought we were cruising. So guys, example lineups, we put it together, some thought processes here. Howard will have the full playbook and watch list out on Saturday, example lineups out on Sunday. Where you can find us on the live stream here, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Myself and Britt Flynn, taking you with that Germany game kicking off at 9:30. Then to go listen to Bender and Coop at 10 to 11. Come right back here, 11 to 12. Myself and Andrew Cooper taking you through the NFL in actives. Howard, my friend, any final thoughts for the people at home here?
Y'all should come hang out with me Saturday night into Sunday morning because I'm going to stay up all night long. I'm making schnitzel, spätzle, brats. I'm making some sauerkraut, some Bavarian style pretzels. I'm going full blown Germany on the overnight so that I can enjoy this Miami Kansas City game, which will probably be the best game on the slate. So I might as well just enjoy eating a whole mess of German food as well. Will I be making some Wiener Rostbraten? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see.
We probably should have a showdown playbook put out there. We'll have to send a call out to get a showdown maybe created for that one, right?
Yeah, play everybody in that.
Play everybody. I agree with you. All right, guys. We'll check us there. Follow us on Twitter. Get in the Discord if you're not already there. We'll catch you all later.